friend, actually my sister-in-law's sister, lost her pup, Chloe, and that made me so sad because Chloe seemed like the bestest dog, and there's nothing harder than when we lose a pet. It's really something that it's impossible to express how we feel, and I felt so bad, and the only way I felt I could ease my little sadness compared to my friend's greater sadness of actually losing Chloe, seeing her every day, was to do a little homage in collage. So that's what I've been working on off camera a little bit. I've already started. I took a favorite photo of Chloe off of my friend's social media page that I thought expressed this sweet pup best. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to keep working and show you a little. If anything comes up that I don't think I've shared with you all on this channel, I will share it with you. But mostly I'm just going to be working on Miss Chloe here. And I chose ephemera that is kind of muted in color because Chloe was a white bulldog. I think she was a bulldog. She's definitely a sweet mix. Here's some other photos I thought about working with for Chloe for collage. This was my favorite, so that's the one that I wanted to work with. I'm working out of a vintage magazine, an old brides magazine, because all of the different shades of pale, kind of like the song, and grabbing some images from National Geographic. I think this is a National Geographic. It doesn't look like, yeah, it's just an old National Geographic. It doesn't have the cover to complement it. So that's my palette. That's what I'm working with. And I saved my scraps from working at home this week before coming to the studio, just in case I need them. Because there's a lot of great shadows that are going on and a lot of little details that I think I want to work with. Sometimes, just like with the Jeff Beck collage, I'll show you an example of that here. With that collage, there were a lot of little details that I wanted to go into that got very difficult very quickly. And also with Godzilla. You guys probably remember Godzilla as well. I'll share that one with you. Also, the final image. One of the challenges that I find with these intricate collages where I am making a collage out of a photograph is that I have to come back in and cut ephemera that I've already applied. And in many cases, they're very, very small pieces. It's just a little bit of the collar for the pup. And I still have to cut here because I need to cut out this section. And when I do that, it actually helps me because then I can remove excess that's not needed for the image. I can just remove that excess, put it off to the side. And what I mean off to the side here are all my scraps, which I don't let go of my scraps until the image is done. Hang on to your scraps if you have enough scraps because they can save you in the very end. So what we have here, I like using a little bit of black lines in this image because to show some of the fold of the fur and to also give it some amount of depth. I've shared before, I am not a painter, but a lot of techniques of painting come into play when you are working with collage. So I try to bear that in mind, how important shadow is, how important shape is, how important blocking parts of the image out are. And just to reiterate, you do not have to go to art school to become a collage artist. You really don't. Yes, it helped me tremendously find my voice. But when I graduated from art school, I had no idea what kind of artist I was going to be. And I was already in my mid-30s. And so that was kind of frightening because I thought I have to hurry up and make money. And what I really needed to do was slow down and find my voice. And collage was my voice. What led me to being a collage artist, and that was scrapbooking. And scrapbooking was a wonderful introduction to art. I really didn't practice any sort of art until I started doing the Creative Memories scrapbooking. That was so much fun for me, and I wanted to take it a step further. that's how I started going to art school, and that's what ultimately led me to collage, because I realized after graduating art school, I am a happy person when I do collage. So here we go. We got this nice cut, and I can actually cut away some excess right here. Don't need that little bit because I already got what I needed. Trim that away. When I'm able to trim away and keep this as neat as possible, it's less to cut through. So it's a technique. I've been doing this technique for about 3 years now, since the channel was born during the pandemic. And I've evolved teaching myself really by trial and error what works best for me. And I'm going to lay that here. And I love that contrast. What a great contrast. Here is some contemporary magazine. This was from the Brides magazine, which is actually quite old. It's over 20 years old. And then I have the vintage magazine, different quality, black and white. And I'm going to place it next to the image, the bride image. And that offers a really nice contrast for our Miss Chloe. I'm also not putting on too much adhesive. I'm just putting a little bit of tape onto the back of this vintage to cover that space. And the vintage paper, the way I have the tape is hinged now. So if I need to make any changes, I can, and yet it will stay in place. I'll probably add some more later when I'm more confident about everything is supposed to go, just to make sure it stays in place, because right now it's going to be, the tape is actually here, and when I cut this image out, this piece could fall away. Probably shouldn't, but for now, this is good. It's less for me to cut through. But getting back to what I mean about cutting through, I have to cut through this vintage paper again, following the line here that was created by the other ephemera, so we can keep that image going, and we can have the feel of the pup's fur, and also where I'm going to have to cut later, which is going to be along this ear. And I'm just simply cutting, cutting out again, not cutting I'm cutting the old vintage paper, but I want to make sure it's already cut and ready to go. And also by doing this, to repeat myself, I'm cutting it away, because when I flip it around, I can see what I don't need anymore, and I can remove this. I'll gently remove it, just use my X-Acto to saw through it. Hang on to that, because we might need it again. Now, if I want to, I know that I want to keep this this ephemera here, so I'm going to go ahead and tape it. Just put a little bit of tape, just enough, because as I've shared before 1,000,000 times, and I'm going to share it again, I am heavy-handed with my media, with my adhesive. It's not a bad thing. I just want to make sure things stay into place. And now it will. It's good. There's a little bit of space in between. I can fill that in later. It's going to be okay. And so it's looking good. I'm happy with it. And I'm going to continue on, and I won't have to worry about this piece because it's already cut. I'm going to keep working with the back. We have a lot of detail going on here. With this wonderful face. Such a sweet face. Oh, poor pup. It's always hard to lose our babies. Anyway, I'm going to keep working and be thinking about Chloe, and I'm going to just speed everything up in time lapse and show you guys what I'm doing, and stop here and there and share some more with you. This is becoming way more instructive than I intended it to be. So I purposely chose the next piece of ephemera that had obviously wonderful monochromatic grays, blacks, whites going on. And I'm being very conscious of that. This is where maybe the painterly skills I learned in college, in art school, will come into play. So I'm looking at this. We have a wonderful shadow here, and then we have more of a hot spot and highlight, and then a direct darkness. And I did indicate on my little notes here, here I wrote a W, meaning I wanted something white. Here I wrote B, meaning I wanted something darker, like for black. So it's not going to be an exact black, because that would be too much contrast, but I have some wonderful contrast going on with this grayscale, and I want to use that here to give more of a three-dimensional effect to the final collage image, and I think that works really, really well. I like the way it looks. It's a nice contrast, and I can continue on from here. This is where things get a little bit more exacting, so I'm going to grab a tiny piece of drafting tape, place it here. I'm going to move this a little bit more. See, I like having that contrast. The darkness next to the vintage paper, I think, adds a really nice depth of quality. I'm going to place my tape here to make that hinge so it's easier to work with or move around or remove it entirely before I really commit to it. Although I think I'm going to stay with, I feel pretty good about the way that looks, so I'm going to just tape it onto that old vintage paper that's right next to it. Right here, it's taped onto the back of that. Everything's good. I can go ahead and remove my drafting tape and keep working on this collage. It's always ideal to keep the image that you're working on nearby in any type of practice of art. If you're doing a painting, collage in this case. And I have this picture, the original picture, but it's on my phone, which isn't fantastic. And I'm looking at this little space that I'm planning on working on. I see that ear, actually, and you absolutely probably can't see it on my phone right now. It has a nice pinkish tinge to it. So I did something dark here, and I'm looking at this area and I'm thinking I want to find something kind of pinky going on to indicate that definitely as an ear will have a wonderful contrast with this darker ephemera right underneath. So I like to refer back to the original image that I'm working on. That's always a grand idea. It's on my phone right now because the original image, a better image, is on my work computer. So I'm going to go ahead and try to make reference using this right now because I'm not at my work computer and see what we come up with. I do have some nice pink going on. I have some pink here, again from the bridal magazines. I think this will work very well. I even went ahead and grabbed a stamp of Thomas Jefferson. So he might make an appearance in the Chloe collage. Who knows? But I got a couple of stamps I'm kind of excited about using for this collage based solely on color, not content. I really want to use this one maybe for the eye. I don't know if I will, but I grabbed it for that purpose alone. And again, grab as much ephemera as you can because you'll have a lot more fun when you have a lot more toys to play with. I think it bears repeating, not only for you, my wonderful viewers, but also for myself, that when I'm working with highly detailed collages and I apply the ephemera, after I apply this ephemera, I am going to go ahead and cut again because that cut's going to allow me to remove excess. It will make the job easier. It will make the job easier because I won't be cutting through like 4 or 5 layers eventually. I just go ahead and make the cut now. This is a National Geographic, but I am working with a lot of vintage paper. Vintage paper means it's fragile. X-Acto knives and vintage paper don't always get along, even though an X-Acto knife is nice and sharp and more exact than a pair of scissors. But for some reason, it crumbles up more, it gets all messy, and I just don't like using my X-Acto knife with vintage paper. So what I'm doing here, I'm holding just with enough finger pressure along the lines as I cut, making very careful cuts with a very sharp X-Acto before I continue applying more ephemera onto the back of this image. Again, taped it below the image. So here we go. Here is that piece I was just cutting. And I'm not going to need this, so I can cut away at that and cut away at this. So it's not going to overlap. And it's not going to be a problem for me when I apply more ephemera later. So this this little technique here, a little house cleaning technique for collage, I pretty much just discovered working on this one. When I tried to teach collage in workshops, I was always telling my participants that you're going to have to cut really hard because you're putting on layer after layer after layer. And, you do. But when you do it this way, you're removing those layers. Just be careful you don't remove too much of the tape, though, because I have a lot of stuff taped here. But it's going to make the job easier in the end. Just removing that excess, including the tape in some cases. But I'm now applying my tape to pieces that are already basically set in stone. They're not going anywhere. The tape's there, and the image is pretty much good to go. It's safe. I see even this, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's part of my other piece of ephemera, but it's safe. It's all good. Do I need to put more tape here just to make sure it stays? It looks like it'll stay. I'm going to put a little bit of tape there because everything's good. I'll just ensure maybe that it will stay in place. This is actually working well for me. Right now, removing this excess as I go and making the work a little bit easier when I come back for subsequent cuts afterwards. So this has been cut. This is clean. This is ready to go. This is good. It's not ready to go anywhere. It's going to stay in place. And we made her ear pink. And I have little bits of detail along these ears. So this piece, I think I want this to be a dark piece. But look, right underneath, I want that to be white to really stand out. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge here. But it's made easier because there's nothing underneath. I don't have to press as hard as I always feel like I do and break my blades and cut paper. So I'll cut there. I'm just creating a space where I know I can put my paper, my ephemera to create the collage. Here we go. Perfect little space. And I can play with color, or rather shades of gray. I may want to go dark, and I'll go back to time lapse too. Happy to say the detail portion of this is going really well. I have a section drawn off here with purple pencil on the Xerox image to show where I need to cut. And it's just a sliver. It's not very much there at all. And I want to show different shade of white there to differentiate from the body. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge based on how delicate that line is going on there. So wish me luck because I'm coming in to my ephemera, which I actually cut away pretty well. And there shouldn't be too much to deal with. But that's why cutting away the ephemera after you tape it down, for me, is working really well. You see it kind of scrunched up there, not too bad. And I'm also trying to decide where does it begin because it looks like it's all attached to the head, and I'm not sure if I want that. But I do know I want to get this done before I start working on the bigger parts. I am finding for myself that when I work with the details first, they're more successful and I feel better about them instead of working on the bigger, easier parts. This way, I'm just managing to get everything done. So I want this to look realistic. Um, I could just do a straight line or a curved line, and I'm just not sure exactly what it is I want to do right here. Uh, so definitely it's going to be a piece of white, but it's going to be a different color than the body and probably the head because I want to delineate that this is an ear on a white body. Okay, so I'm just going to remove these little annoying pieces away first. It looks like we're pretty clean. In terms of the other ephemera, I can remove that hopefully easy as soon as I make up my mind about what I want to do here. I'm thinking about, I don't know what I'm thinking about. This is actually becoming not a huge problem. Yeah, because I want it to look natural and I want it to look like something. I think I'm just going to do this. Going to commit, making a cut. I'm cutting down here and removing that. Okay. Now this is all going to be a little different piece of white ear. Here's my, okay, yeah, that's exactly how I wanted the cut, so that's a good thing. May want to clean up a little bit on the back here. Yeah, it's a little messy, not surprising. And it's not a big deal, easy enough to clean. And in fact, I can use my scissors on this one. Oh, I don't even have to use the scissors, it just kind of fell away. Okay, that's good. Actually, I do need my X-Acto here, just a little bit. It's just a little bit of paper that's kind of loose. Remove that. Okay, that's not too bad. This is a little messy here, but I haven't really begun my cuts here. I'm going to come back in again because that's going to bug me. Okay. Yeah, the reason that this is a problem is because there's several layers of paper and tape, and that's what I have to cut through. And when that happens, sometimes these delicate pieces, these more intricate details get messy. But I need to keep that there because I haven't finished yet and I need to put the body there. So we're good with this little sliver of ear. I haven't really made up my mind about what color white I want to use for the body. Why did I pull this one? There's no white. I mean, the yellow's awesome. I'd like to use that for another project, but for some reason, I chose this piece of paper. I don't know. I'm going to set that off to the side because I don't know if I really want to use that. I know I liked this. I wanted to use this, but it's not enough for this little ear. This was actually the bits for the collar. And I don't know if I'm going to be using it again. So here's some nice white, but I think I want to use that, for the larger parts. Some more nice white, but I want something maybe almost gray for the ear. So here we're back with the vintage paper, which actually has been cutting pretty well. It's a lot stronger than your average vintage paper, and then there is the bridal magazine. You even have something like with a $20 bill that's kind of gray in color. That might be interesting also, not sure yet. So again, this is why I like this technique. I have a nice open space that I can play with and decide what color will look best. So we're going to look at this gray, and yeah, that's actually that's a nice contrast, a very nice contrast. That could work. Definitely gray is going to work pretty well here. That's a little darker than I want. The gray needs to be kind of light because I also need to decide at this point for the larger portion of the body, what color do I want to use here? Because I'm kind of committing at this point. See, that looks good too. This design pattern, that might be a really good idea because it is a pattern and it's showing shape, and it will contrast very well with something like the bright white. And I am leaning more and more towards this. But I do kind of want to know what it's going to be. But I like working with my details first. They're not my focal point, but they are very important to help things stand out better. There's also this little part of the ear, which I already used here. I don't know if I want to again. And then there's this and this. She doesn't have a black ear, so I don't want it to have too much darkness in it. I really like this curtain. I think we're going to go with the curtain. And I'll cut it out just to make sure. Carefully cut it out because there's some good shades of gray in here that I may want to use later. This window area, that could be very profound later for a smaller section of the collage. That's why I hang on to everything. And except the little tiny incy-wincy pieces that are useless. I say hang on to everything. I don't mean that absolutely literally. When you have like little shreds of paper that are of no use to anything, just go ahead and put in your recycle bin. Okay, back to this ear. And yeah, I think this looks good because there's more white than black. I even like the look of the cord on here. The nice part about this technique also, it helps you to decide, how you put lines in, how you are going to line it up with what you already have. Now, it doesn't let the pink pop out too much, but I'm not going to worry about that too much at this point. It doesn't let this part pop out very much. Let me grab that gray again. See, we have design here. I got some design on here. So I may not want too much design on this little sliver of ear. That's why the gray works pretty well. Doesn't let it pop out too much. Decisions. Here's another shade of white. It could work. I kind of like that. This is like a bed, a little bedspread that, again, it's not a focal point in the picture, but it works pretty well, perhaps, for this ear. Now, I don't have enough for the other ear right here. I don't think I will. So I need to be cognizant of that. But that other ear is so different. And on the other side, we should be okay if I decide to go with this. So they're barely any pattern. I also have this, not too much pattern on there. Pattern is very important in collage. There's also this here. Well, I'm really spending a lot of time on this little bit of ear, but the reason being is that it delineates where we're going and what this is. Yeah, look, that to me works even better. That does look really good because then this line lines up with here. I think I'm going to go with this. So we have some nice design of this dress. I'm just going to cut white part out so we don't have any pink or flesh tone going on. Just exactly what I want. And I know I was looking at this line. That helps quite a bit. And I always cut off a little bit too much because I don't know if, that it's going to work or if I'm going to have enough space to tape it down. Or should have more than enough space. Okay, yeah. That looks pretty nice. I have some black going on here that's bugging me. I'm going to trim this away. Okay. And yeah, this is what I mean. Like something like this teeny tiny little sliver of paper. Let's get back to time lapse. Have the bridal magazine, and I have the space cut for our area we're working on next. Keeping this area, I'm probably going to put some sort of shade in there. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm looking at this. I like the white contrasting with the ear. It even looks good on the camera. I'm looking at the camera as I'm doing this. And then there was this other side, which I like a lot because of the lines going on. And that contrasts well also with that ear. Texture, color. Texture, color. Texture can win out mostly. And then I wanted to make this more of a darker area. I don't know if I need to. Something like that maybe. Yeah, so this is a bit of a quandary. See, I could just take this out and let the ephemera tell the story. Might be able to do that. I think I'm going to just go ahead and remove this. I was going to use it to maybe add some more shadow, but the texture and the shadows provided by these photos and this bridal magazine are pretty good. That's kind of good. I don't know if you can see it. Here, let's move the camera a bit, or move the image a bit. So yeah, so we have the ruffles from the dress. I kind of like the way that's going. That looks kind of cool. Because a lot of nice texture, I don't need to worry about that shadowy part. So we might be okay. This or this? Detail going on right now. I want to make sure that chin is prominent with some little wrinkles showing. I went ahead and cut it out without applying it to the picture plane because I want to cut out these sections away from adhesive, away from other layers because they're kind of delicate. I think it's successful. I'm going to go ahead and apply it. I wanted to leave a good line beneath on the under part of the chin so it reads as a chin. I went ahead and put some black paper on here. I need to trim some stuff away also. Okay. That's another story, something I was working on with this collage because it wasn't coming out the way it was supposed to when I was initially drawing it. So here we go. I'd like a little more I wanted a little bit more of a line underneath the chin to look like a line. So I just trimmed around here. I may do just a little bit more. I don't want to overdo it. And I want to stay with the natural line of Chloe's chin. I think it'll be okay because we have enough of a contrast. It's a solid color. There's some nice black going on here. So I think we'll be okay. And what I need to do is I need to glue it down here, which isn't something that I've been doing lately in my collages. I haven't really been gluing anything down. I'm obviously gluing stuff down, but I'm using Mod Podge, or I'm using packing tape, not Mod Podge, but I do use some Mod Podge. This is a good case for Mod Podge. It's also a case for spray adhesive if I want to use spray adhesive, but that's a lot of spray adhesive, a little bit of spray adhesive, and it may not even be worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this piece, this chin piece, atop the black background. So we have what looks like line and shadow of the folds of the chin skin. And see how that works, because then there's going to be a lot more detail I need to cut along here. We'll see. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, off camera, I went ahead and used my trusty Mod Podge and my wax paper and applied this little chin on this little girl. And it should be on pretty well. Got some nice black line going on. And the thing is now is I need to cut even more to add more black, and maybe a different shade of black than what I have here. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to go to time lapse for that because I really want to make sure this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Nothing terrible, but it's something I haven't faced before. Or maybe not. This is a little different. Yeah, this is when it gets a little challenging because right now, to me, it doesn't look like a chin. But it should be. Once it's all done, it should definitely look like a chin. So back to work for me. Okay, probably difficult for you to see, but the cut came out pretty well. And I'm pleased with it. It's we still have these little rough edges, but again, working with magazine paper, and magazine paper was not made for art. We're forcing it into art. We're forcing it into becoming a medium. But it came out okay. I'm pleased with what we have so far. So now the next task at hand is to figure out what color black I want to apply here, because we have this bulldogs have that sweetness about them, that protruding chin and their little lips, and they're just makes you want to hug them and kiss on them, and this pup certainly had that going on. So that's really prominent. It's a huge part of their personality. The eyes are absolutely expressive, but the way that little chin puckers out, like it wants just to give you kisses all the time. So I really want to make sure that works. And I thought about using maybe a purple, maybe a pink, although she had, her lips are black. This mauve, maybe. I'm going to do some thinking off camera because this might take a while. It's an important part and I want to do it right. So let's see what I can find in my ephemera piles. That took longer than expected because I was playing with all sorts of shades of black. I ended up going actually with the hair on this image, the long hair. added a little bit of texture. The solid black, while it would work, it just didn't work. I didn't like the way it looked. It was just too much. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do next because we still have the little muzzle and the nose to go to work with next. So I'm not sure how any of that's going to look, but this is what I decided to go with, and I think it looks pretty good. It's a nice contrast. I know it's probably hard to see on camera, but it adds a nicer contrast. I think it'll be fine. Anyway, I'll keep going here. Thinking about this muzzle and the nose. The Xerox copy I have is actually my computer printer. It's not the greatest computer printer in the world, and I'm not sure if I can delineate what I want to do next. So that's when the image, need to find the image again. Hopefully I still have it here. And it's hard to see even here on the picture. It's really hard to see actually. So shoot. And I can see her little chin had some pink in it too, but I wasn't able to get that going. So I'm trying to see where her little nose begins. It's hard to see in the picture. I'm gonna have to kind of play with it a little bit, but the nose is usually fairly prominent, fairly big, and gosh, so this is when it gets a little tough. But I need to think about these corners. Yeah, this is the detail part that gets tough. And I have indications of other lines that I want to do. Let's see which way I want to go here. Here's the nose, little nostrils maybe. Yeah, I'm kind of working blind here now. How we can do this. Still maintain integrity of the original image. Like I said, I didn't make the best, it's not the best copy, but that's what I was working with. I have the hinge thing going on here, so if I need to, I can always hinge it down. Also, what I did with the chin, I took the black out because it was just too much. It was really intense, almost gave it like a cartoony appearance, and I didn't really want that, although I did like how the lines came out. So I'm just still thinking here. Yeah, still thinking. I'm gonna try something here in a second. So a fairly decent solution I found was staying with the same piece of magazine paper that had the same shade, the same tones going on, and applying them to the muzzle and the upper lip. So I think we'll be okay. I know I can obviously use it here. And I liked using, again, that wonderful shade between the model's arm and the black background. Beautiful contrast. So I'm just applying it here on the muzzle. Not sure what to do with the little nose. All of these things go through my mind. Then this delineation point. What do I want to do? Do I want to keep like a delineation point for the nose to indicate we have a nose here? Again, I'm not sure. We are far from done because I'm doing a lot of thinking and a lot of talking. So I'm going to do the thinking off camera. What happened was, ultimately, I wasn't happy with the chin on Chloe. So I took off that white chin, which was, I think it was this, because I had to use it as a template. Has some blue tape on it now. I just didn't like the way it looked. I wasn't feeling it. And this was after I applied it. It was just too plain. So I went with a white that was similar to the body here. And I like it better. Also, I stayed with that black and white image to create the muzzle. And I'm pleased so far with how everything is turning out. So I just went with a more of a beige look for the chin to make it look like a chin. I think it looks like a chin. I hope it looks like a chin. But that's what I was doing off camera. It took a while and I had to go back and peel some of my tape off. But since I've been good and I have not been crazy with my adhesive, I'm learning with this piece stark blacks and stark whites aren't going to work. They're not what I want. I was maybe thinking about a stamp for the nose, just to have a little design going on. We have design and pattern, but maybe changing it up a little bit and using a dark purple for the nose and utilize the stamp after we cut off the serrated edges there. That might be good for her little nose. Give her something instead of just a stick. I definitely don't want to use a stark black. It won't work. Because look here, I mean, this area, we worked so hard on the ear and there's more design going on and it's more interesting to look at. Here I got something going on here that I'm not liking. I think I cut too deeply and I scratched the surface of the paper, so I may need to come back in and fix that later. I'm going to go ahead and cut the nose out, and I have to be careful of this middle piece because that's very important. I want to keep that in, but going to go ahead, cut this nose out and start playing with different colors and see what happens. Got that nose cut out, managed to keep that centerpiece, so good job so far. Not sure though if the stamp is going to work. Is it big enough? Let's give this a try. Let's see. It's probably not big enough, but here's a suggestion, an option. Remember, I did not want to use, but let me go ahead and see how it looks anyway. So we just have pure black. It works fine. That there's nothing wrong with that. We could totally, and that might just be the solution here because then we know this is Chloe's nose. And I thought about maybe sneaking the stamp in. And now that I think the stamp's too much, I think the nose knows what it wants, and I think we'll stay with a regular nose. Or I can play with these gray tones again. Just put that off to the side, grab some darker gray tone. How does that look? The reason I like the gray tone so much is it really gives it more of a natural feel. Because nothing in life is pure black like we create on magazines here, or pure white. There's always something that makes it just stands unique and isn't complete darkness or complete light. Hey, everybody, I am liking the nose, just a dark nose. I think we're going to go with this dark nose. Look what I did. I cut the nose too much. I was just trimming away and I didn't pay attention and I cut off too much of the nose. I just got lucky because I found the template for when I was cutting that center part between the nose. So I can fix it. I think what I'm going to need to do is create a whole new nose using, I have enough black, which is great. So usually what I do when this is the case, I grab a piece of drafting tape. I put the piece upside down, and I don't have to worry about being super exact, because I can just cut around and remove the old piece. Yeah, I think that's all I need to do. I'm going to take off the original nose. Good thing, again, I'm not crazy with the adhesive, so that's very good. And put in a new nose. Hang on to this. A new nose, just so. If I have enough black on this piece, maybe this piece. Okay, this will help. And it was definitely the same one because I have something that kind of matches, and I'm going to just apply it here so we can do our cut. When I used to do these kinds of collages years ago, many of them didn't get finished because I cut out each piece precisely the size of what it looked like on like I would cut the nose out and then I would cut a piece corresponding to the size of that nose. And it was painstaking and unfun, and I did not care for that process. This process I've been using with the template has been a lot easier and much more enjoyable. Okay, this time I'm not going to get crazy and cut. I just want to get rid of that little nub that I definitely don't need. Thank you, little template. Yes, this is why we don't throw away our pieces. You never know, you might need them. The little scrappy pieces, don't worry about them. You can toss them. They can go. So I was looking at something like this beautiful design. Although I thought I wanted to save this maybe for the head. Kind of make it look like she has a crown. So if that's the case, I need to put this in a safe place and consider what other options I have for the side of the muzzle. I have some design here that might work, but it's not a lot to work with. And let's just see if it works. So I'm just going to cut this out. Put that off to the side. I might need the background later. It'll be a nice contrast with this nose, with the new nose. Oh, you know what? We do have enough for this. I think this will work. And do I like it? Because that's the other thing. I've changed my mind a couple times working on this collage. I'm going to put a little glue here to make sure that's down. And yeah, this looks nice. This looks very nice. We're going to stay with this. And there's a lot of cutting that I need to do. Be careful. Don't cut away too much, because then we have other problems. Okay, that was a safe cut. Is there anything up here? No. I'm going to leave that alone. These things happen. No one is perfect. Certainly not myself. And I make these little mistakes, and they just are what they are. I wonder if I should tape down these pieces. They have blue drafting tape on them. I'll just go ahead and hopefully I'm not creating another problem that I'm going to have to fix in a few minutes. But if I do, then so be it. Okay. I like that. I like that very much. We'll just give her a little glue. Not going to worry about too much this little imperfection that I'm showing you guys. Just going to start thinking about what's my next step. Here I may want to think about the other side of the muzzle. Now we have some nice design going on here. I do need to cut around this nose. Let me do this. Oh, this nose. Saving that template though, I'm telling you, that really saved me there. Whew, that was a close call. You know, you want everything to be perfect. There's no way it's going to be, but you want it as close to perfect as you can get. I'll just go ahead and keep cutting. It should be an easy cut because we have nothing on the back here. Let's see, finish off our little muzzle. So there aren't too many layers that we had to cut through to get here. There are some. I still want to be careful. Okay, that was a good cut. Pretty good cut. We got a little bit here I'm going to remove. So, okay. Now, the one thing about using really dark paper like we did for the nose here, there's the contrast of white because the paper was obviously printed, it was printed on white paper even though it's a dark image, and that can sometimes show through when you cut. And if it's a thick paper, you're definitely going to see some white line, and that's a bummer. Move everything up to the top here. Don't know if I need it. I'm going to hang on to it. This desk is crazy messy. Ooh, that is hanging on by a thread. Okay, let me tape this down a lot better. Glad everything didn't fall apart. I thought everything was taped down pretty well, and mostly it is, but that part, the new part with the new muzzle and the nose, were not taped down well at all. So I'm going to really secure them better so they won't fall apart. Okay, time to play with this new other side of the muzzle. Now this has some nice folds, and the muzzles often have folds for pups. So let's see. They're not bad. They're just not as they're not super prominent. Maybe this one, but they're kind of straight. That's not bad. I kind of like that because see how the shadow falls in? So this has a nice shadow going on, and if I put it here, definitely indicates that she has some folds going on. That also looks good. Okay, I'm getting happy again after my little faux pas that you all witnessed here on the channel. Okay, but no, I am much happier with this. Okay, this is looking nice. So things are coming together. Feel pretty certain about this, so we're going to give it some good taping down. Yeah, let me go ahead and remove this excess. I really want to be careful how much I'm removing. Okay. She is looking like a little bulldog. To a very delicate area. The eyes, they need to be expressive. They say everything about this sweet girl. And I know that when I looked at the original image, the white area of the eye was actually kind of pinkish, and I want to stay with that. We had a St. Bernard when I was a child, and I remember, he had pink instead of white around the iris, and Chloe was no different. So I'm looking for a lightish pink. Yeah, there we go. So something along these lines is what I want to go for. And also this is where it starts getting really tricky with the detail. I tried to help myself in terms of the details as much as I possibly could, like drawing it out earlier. And in many ways, even though I'm really tracing it out, I didn't really draw this. That's basically what I ended up doing. So this is going to get a little trickier. It's going to take a little bit longer, and it's going to take some patience on my part, and I really just need to be careful where I'm taping, where I'm cutting. So I'm going to check out this pink again to see if that will work. Yeah, it's just pink enough where it's definitely registers as an eye, so should be all right there. And I'm thinking about the other areas. This eye should match this eye. Is the eye round enough? Yeah, you see, this is where I also run into a little bit of trouble. I'm not sure how much I should, try to stay geometric, because here is a case where geometrics don't apply, but our irises are nearly perfectly round, and that, doggies are no exception. So I just kind of want to make sure her eyes are round. And I can work with that a little bit. There's always wiggle room, and this is a handmade piece, so it's not going to be super, super perfect. I'd like it to be super perfect, but that's just not the way things are. So, as you guys have seen today, I do make my fair share of errors. So let me see if I can find. Here we go. I'm just trying to locate again where my space was. And I am going to need to cut once again, but I'm going to commit this little pink patch to this part of the eye. And I need to think about now about the irises. What am I going to do with the irises? What color will they be? They'll probably be black. I went with black for the area underneath the eye. So we have the eye here, the eyeball, and I can cut the rest of that out. Hole punch, unfortunately, isn't going to help me here, not big enough. And here we go. We're just going to go ahead and cut right into the pink paper that we just now placed on here. And keep cutting. Yeah, this is a very important part. If anything that tells us about a person or an animal that we loved, it's the look in their eyes. And Chloe here was just a puppy, it looks like, so I really want this to come out good. Let's see, so we have the iris. Oops, gotta be careful there. So my iris here, let's go ahead and cut here. It's fairly round. It's not super round. That's difficult to get. And I don't know, was this area pink? I can't remember. I know this area and this area was, so I think I can stay with the pink, but I need to decide what to do with that area. I had looked at this when I was playing with my ephemera earlier. Thought about maybe something like this, but nah, I don't think so. Here we have some black. That works pretty good. Why not, I may need to look at her picture again before I proceed. Was this area, I'm trying to think, was this area also, because I thought maybe she was like this. I think she's looking straight at the camera. Not sure. And there's this gray. Do I want to go with the gray maybe? No. She had actually brown eyes, really. And I don't think I have anything brown. I could look. This is a more subtle, like a sepia. It's not unpleasant at all. That might work. I'm gonna go with that. And we don't need a lot, which is nice. Maybe we'll use these for both eyes. And there's this. This is a nice, like a mauve. Try this too. I kind of like that. I think it was a black, but because there's so much rosy going on, I feel like that too. Just trying to decide, do I want to go pink here? I want to stay with this. The reason this looks good is this is the same pink. This is on the same background as the pink. The pink is the background for this. I think that's why it looks as well as it does. Sometimes I like to go with that, sometimes I don't. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to stay with the original color I had, and I am going to trim away this, and it's okay. I can do that. I can do that here. I had to refresh my tape, and because I did, it's a thicker tape. It's a good tape. It's that the 3M. It's better than the tape I was using before. The other tape isn't great, but it works. It works. I do use it. I like it because if I make a mistake, it's okay to pull up. The 3M, not so much. 3M, it's there. It's gonna work, but it's a tougher tape. It's a better quality tape. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead, trust my instinct, and give her a pink eyeball right here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and cut this area above the eyes because we're going to continue on here, and it's that new tape, the 3M. So a lot more work for me here. I don't mind, but it's just the other. I probably should switch to the other tape because I have plenty of it. It's not a problem, and 3M is great for collage, but this type of layering stuff, it's a little tougher. Here we have some pink, and I'm going to make it a light pink. Or would I want a dark pink? Well, let's try both. That's the light pink. Here's the dark pink. I kind of like the dark pink because it's a nice little contrast, a very, very subtle contrast. So I think I'm going to go with it. Secure that piece of pink down. Something sticky on here. Oh, it's this. Gently pull this up. And Chloe has her first eye done. Get rid of that little piece of tape that was bothersome. So here and here, I had areas where I'm like, that's where I want like a little line going on. That is proving to be very tough for me. So I'm working with another idea where I'm thinking I'm just going to apply ephemera on top of the spaces that I thought I would like to have ephemera. So it looks like, I believe I did cut here. I think I'm just gonna go like this all the way to space where back is. And continue cutting up here. So we have a pretty large area where I can go ahead and put in a large piece of ephemera. I'm hanging on to this because we have spaces on here that I definitely want to address. It looks okay, but we are hanging on to that piece we just cut off. Oh wait, look what happened. I didn't mean to cut this part off yet. Where does it go? Okay, so here is the one side. I didn't want this to move yet. Oh boy. Let me quickly try, no, it doesn't have to be quick. Let me put these back together because I didn't mean to do that. Now I know I wanted that to be kind of like that. So what I did was I cut too much off too soon. I wasn't ready to cut off this side. Then I need to kind of like place it back together like a puzzle. I'm going to have to count on these pieces of tape to keep that in place so I have something that resembles what I was going to do. This forehead I am hanging on to. make sure that I can refer back to it, use it as a source, and also to, you know, if I mess up again, I may need it again. So, oh, you know what? Everything's awesome. Messed up somewhere else too. Not a big deal. I'll be back. I'm going to fix things and do some more cutting. Moving along here with Miss Chloe, we still need to finish this side of the face. I'm not sure if I'm going to use an entire piece of white ephemera to make up this space, but we have this wonderful little ear that I'm actually thinking about using from our vintage pages, this globe, to make up maybe the outside part of the ear. Let's see how that works. So that ear looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Put a little stamp in there and some more vintage colored paper. Some of that same lavender type paper and that glorious sunset, just a little bit, just to kind of make things balance out some. And we are kind of coming into the home stretch. That meaning I'm going to try and finish, well, I will finish this off today. And I'm curious about what I need to do with this eye, if I need to put anything around it to emphasize an eyelid, or because there's nothing here. I didn't end up doing anything there. It's just based on my sketches. I think I can, well, I know I wanted to put this stamp underneath this eye, and I'm not sure if that was my idea. That was my plan initially. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, and that's fine. It's just how collage works for me. Sometimes I have these wonderful plans and I'm going to use a specific type of ephemera, and I end up not doing it, and everything works out even better than I planned. So that's why I try to just trust this process and trust my own experiences as well. So the tricky part is this part of the template is not connected to the paper anymore, as you can tell by the blue tape. I need to cut around it, and what I do with something like this is I'll remove this section of tape very gently. I don't want it to pull up any ephemera or tear the surface of that ephemera. I even prefer it not to tear the template, even though if it does, it's not a big deal. Just go ahead and remove that. It's not necessary here at this point, but I'm going to put it off to the side because as I cut, I'm going to remove these other pieces of blue tape. That'll be the area that I want to cut next. But for now, cutting here, and I need those pieces of blue tape to hold everything in place. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, and the problem here also is other ephemera underneath this that I might be cutting. We have a lot of detail around this wonderful ear, and I want to be careful. I want to maintain it, and my blade actually broke the tip. I broke the tip of my blade working just now in time lapse right before this shot. So it's still sharp, but the point's gone, and I can usually work without the point for a while. I normally do break my blades because right now I am pressing very hard. So I want to make sure the blade goes through one time only. I don't like disrupting this ephemera too much. See, now we're having an issue here where it's starting to get a little scrunched. It's folding a bit. I don't want that, but I'll do the best I can. I mean, after all, it is paper. It can be replaced, but I did a lot of work there, and I kind of don't want to damage all the work that I did. Okay, coming down here. Go ahead and keep cutting. It's, I see what it's doing to some of my ephemera. I don't like that. Yeah, that's always the risk I run into when I do these type of highly detailed projects. Okay, so that got cut, and I'm going to go ahead and put this back on because I still want to keep my template in place. I'm going to remove this piece of ephemera, blue tape, off of the template. Ooh. And it's gotta be careful. This stuff is still sticky. I tried to take the sticky adhesive part off, and okay, looks like we're safe for now. It's paper, it's gonna do what it wants, and I have to be flexible when I collage. Okay, this side hopefully won't be as difficult. Pressing my finger down away from the blade, of course. I don't want to get cut, because you guys know I do cut myself sometimes, and that's not ideal. Okay, still moving it along. All right, I think we reached the end there. I don't want to say this is harder than it looks, but it's harder than it looks. I got a lot of detail going on. I don't want to cut too much, and I want to cut enough so I don't have to come back with the blade. Because then it does, see? Look at all these little bits and pieces. That's what makes cutting tough, because there is adhesive, there is the tape that's going on here, and we're working with some darker pieces of ephemera, so what happens with that, the white will show through. Now I can't even remember where I cut, but I think it was around here, so I like picking up my cut where I'd already cut, so I don't have to like jab it in a new area and then there's pieces in between that weren't cut, and then it just becomes a big mess, because then when I try to pull up the template, it won't pull up because there's still pieces that are attached. I mean, we're going to have a space where the eye was, but I don't know if that's going to work. Okay, so I've got to hang on to this ephemera. Keep cutting here. I want it to be as clean as possible. Yeah, it's removing the eye. Oy boy. Okay, let me go ahead and just peel this off gently as possible. And I'm just going to take the template off, hang on to that, because it proves to be invaluable, as you guys remember from dealing with the nose. We don't need this little piece. And then it's hard to read where I put, okay, see, this is where, oof. Yeah, we're gonna run into some problems here. That's okay, because I can make changes, I can switch gears. That's always a possibility here. Highly detailed pieces like this tend to happen. This tends to happen with the highly detailed pieces. That's fine. So the worst case scenario will be I'll have to make another photocopy to trace the eye back out, but it's kind of there. What I want to do at this point is make sure this is taped down with some good adhesive. That's the eye. I want to tape that. Just a little bit of adhesive, just enough to keep it in place, because I'm not sure what my next move is going to be, but I'm going to tape it. Okay. Brush away excess debris. That is no good for me. And what happened is, okay, this part needs a little cleanup. Or what I can do is, yeah, and this is vintage paper, so it's scrunching up on me as I cut. It really looks messy to me at my vantage point right here. Keep cutting, keep cutting. Yeah, there's a lot a lot of ephemera that was piled up there. One thing I got out of art school was craftsmanship is so important. And I try to maintain good craftsmanship throughout my project, not just for my not just for the final piece, for the focal point or the important parts, but for the entire thing, keeping the area clean, getting rid of these little rough edges, because it makes a difference in the end. It really does for me. Everybody works differently, but for me, I really like keeping a clean area. See, a lot of this is going to get covered up by the other ephemera I'm going to be placing here. I want to keep that eye in place. Now, this is also opportunity for me to pull in that stamp if I want to see how it looks underneath the eye, like I did initially. That's a little stamp that I wanted to add under the eye. And let's see. A lot of tape going on there. I know I just taped it, so it's another reason why it's a little messy. That is the one drawback I will say about the packing tape. It's wonderful because you don't have the wrinkling issue, but it's not wonderful because you have the messiness of the tape when you have to cut through it. And again, packing tape wasn't made for art. It was made to pack items and keep them in place for transit. And this is not where it was originally meant to do, but it works for me, and I normally really love it. Not loving it so much right now because it's making a mess. So let's go ahead and give this stamp a try, because I actually have the opportunity to do that. So maybe this is not at all in vain, it was meant to be. Okay, so here's the little eye. So yeah, actually that looks kind of cool. Go ahead and trim off all the serrated edges from the postage stamp and utilize that postmark, where exactly I want it. The stamp itself is also quite fragile. Maybe a little lower. Okay. Use a smidge more of drafting tape. Oh, I don't even know if I want to do that. Just a bit. Not really hard, just keep it pressed in place so I can flip it over like this. Okay, we're good. I don't always like using Mod Podge glue for really small details like this, although it's certainly not going to hurt anything, and it's going to save the day, I believe. Do some trimming. I fixed everything, and I'll show you what I did in a minute, but I'm finishing up here, and I needed another nice piece of shade of white, and I believe I found it. Just the folds of this dress, but I want to be careful of the little number in the corner here. Again, from the Bridal magazine from well over 20 years ago. It's been very helpful finding beautiful shades of white to finish up our Miss Chloe here. And I think this is a good contrast, because I love how the shadow falls here. Don't want that number there though. Not crazy about the little dot, but that's part of the dress. Can also move it up a little bit here. Play with it some. A lot more texture here. Does that work? It looks interesting. I think it's good. We have a lot of interesting patterns going on, so it doesn't hurt that there is kind of a nice chunk of white right here. Because those eyes, let me tell you, they were a challenge for me, and I am up for those challenges. So I'm going to go ahead and seal this on. Make sure she's on all right. We don't need all of this. Just trim it a touch. Keep that. Not quite done. When I'm done, then I'm going to clean up the mess here. You guys know how messy my desk gets when I'm doing collage, especially these tiny details that exist. I love tiny details in collage. They inspire me when I see other collage artists making these tiny analog details. I'm in awe. Then I attempt them and I get really frustrated really quick. But stay with it. Don't give up. Persevere. Keep going. Is she done? Now remember, we had some little ideas for some more texture, some more color. Do I want to do that here? I don't think it'll hurt. Maybe one by this eye. So I'm not going to jinx myself and say it's easy enough to do. It's not always easy. Famous last words for me is, I'll get up early and exercise. This shouldn't take long, and that'll be easy. It turns into a mess when I jinx myself that way. So I'll just go ahead and give it a try. So these are kind of the final touches on our Chloe collage. And we'll see what we come up with. There shouldn't be too much ephemera on the back here. Okay, that was good. That came out okay. I have a little bit here. That. There's also, you know, the highlights for the eye. Do I want to do something like that on the eyeballs? Do I want to put some type of highlight? I think it's a good idea. Maybe something I come back to later. Here was the other. Okay, I thought I wanted to do some highlight here, something here. Maybe. It's a big maybe. Let me just put that here and see what it looks like. So these are the other ideas I had for highlight and shadow. Maybe a couple little lines here. I don't know if I want to put another line there. Let me do it anyway because it's easy enough. There we go. To cover it up with more white in the background or just fill in the blanks. I don't really want to put it on top of the ephemera. I just want to, you know, continue with the process that I've been using, which is, you know, cutting and pasting in the back. Okay. Let me try this here. There may be more ephemera on this side than there were on the previous cuts I just made. And I am cutting pretty hard. I'm pressing really hard, probably harder than I have to. Okay, that was actually the ephemera that came up. And let's see about this guy. Yeah, this side gave me trouble. You guys recall just a little while ago, it gave me some trouble. Don't know if I should have, you know, subjected myself to it again. Okay. Well, maybe it's not so bad. Just to add a little bit more interest to our girl. Okay. There we go. Again, I'm going to hang on to the templates just in case. And we can just fill them in with, I wonder if I need anything here. I don't think I put anything, well, there was the little bit of shadow above her eye right here. Do I want that? It's very intricate. Just go ahead and do it. Just to indicate shadow. Okay, good. I got the ephemera up. And this little bit here. Kind of showing her a little bit of a furrowed brow. I just need to clean this up some. These came out okay. There's a little bit of a straggler here. Okay. And here, still a little messy. Not terribly messy. But if I kept everything clean up till now, this kind of stuff shouldn't be a big deal. This should just be like the finishing touches. Just sweep it away and I will clean up the area around it because it's a mess around here. Okay. Pull this up gently and clear up this side, and we are not parting with it yet. Okay, you know what? I am happy I did that. Let me see if I can find good ephemera for it. This is it, the final result. She is about 5 by 7 inches, so if necessary she can fit into a small frame. Not sure about the background yet. I believe I'm going to be scanning her, putting her into Photoshop so we can play with backgrounds. But ultimately, I will be gifting it to Chloe's owner and see what she would like to do for a background.